Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chatting with Asta. This show on my YouTube channel is kind of my way of keeping social, talking to all sorts of people in my life that I admire, both for their art, their work, their mindset. Today, I'm lucky to be joined by Brian DiLorenzo. He is a filmmaker that I'm so lucky to know. He recently released Myth onto Amazon Prime. Please watch it. So good. We're going to be talking about it today. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah. So you're like in Brooklyn now.
Oh, what's that?
You're a Brooklynite now.
Oh, I am. Yeah, I know. That's why I grew the mustache out. No, but yeah, we just moved like a week ago, so we're a little bit closer, to the Park Slope side of things, which is different. I've been in Bushwick for 5 years, so different vibes, but I love both equally.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of just don't know anything about this area yet. Like I'm a little baby, kind of just walking around trying to figure out, where to get a bagel, that kind of thing.
That is the thing. I mean, and that's also just hard given the world circumstances right now. But you've got a very charming, I can see behind you, a fireplace mantle. Is that a working fireplace?
It's not, but hey, it's there. My girlfriend did an amazing job. She found this place in one try, I think, and then we were both just like, yeah. Like this is, why even look any further?
Yeah, I am in the same boat. The place I'm living in right now, we've been living in for about 7 years, maybe a little less, maybe a little more.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I think, like the second apartment we looked at. And I feel like it's technically the first because the first one we looked at was, we walked in and we got weird vibes and they were asking for our social security numbers right away. We were like, no. So this one we looked at, but we were so blinded by it that we didn't notice the old refrigerator or the falling apart. We were just face.
I know. If I could say something, because I've only got to see your place once, you and Clay, but you guys have an amazing Halloween memorabilia collection. Was that his? Is it yours? Did you guys combine collections or?
His.
Mostly his. Yeah, I figured it's usually the dudes.
Yeah, he's more the Halloween. I mean, the Halloween, John Carpenter Halloween.
Right. Yeah, I thought, is that your guys' main one, or are you more the night
franchise is a hefty tie between Scream and Poltergeist.
Nice. Yeah, I'm in that boat too. But I haven't seen the sequels to Poltergeist. I've only seen the first one.
The second one is supreme, I have to say. Mm-hmm. Definitely bumps up the effects. It's also adding more. If you haven't checked it out already, I guess maybe you don't want to spoilers, but the Shudder did this cursed film series, and they discussed the Poltergeist film franchise as potentially or not cursed, just based on all the horrific things that happen to people involved with the cast and crew. But it's I love that. It's just one of the best. But there's no Poltergeist representation in our apartment, so that should and will change. But it's funny to mention for our viewers who don't know this, and this is actually, I was telling Brian before we started recording, this is the beginning of back-to-back Brians. So this is Brian DiLorenzo, and next week I've got another Brian. Stay tuned. And both of you guys, yeah, both great Brians. Both of you were part of a very infamous Halloween night.
Ooh, do we tell a story or?
I mean, we can start. I mean, it was your first time coming over to our place. So first of all, it was kudos to you for still being in my life after this. But Brian, came in, sweet Brian, and he, just joined us. And one thing led to another, and my husband and another guest took some bad edibles from a third guest. It just people were lying on the floor, people were sweating. We were watching Joe Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys were binging like all night. You had like a whole lineup. I was super excited because I made it there for like, I want to say it was like the Curse of Michael Myers, like Halloween. Brian will obviously know this. Halloween 4 or 5, one of those two.
And and it just went off the rails. And like,
yeah.
I was looking at you chilling and everyone chilling, and then people freaking out, and then it just ended up that you had to help me bring a bunch of grown men down the stairs and into an Uber, and then I spent the night in the ER.
Yeah, I mean, it was like it's like not even like an exaggerated, like it was literally like I'd been there for like 20 minutes, and it was the worst 20 minutes to arrive. It was like everyone was just hitting their peaks, and then like, you know, someone went from like normal to like on the floor in like a 10-minute period.
Yeah, it was intense, and I just remember being like, the next day, just like writing you, being like, it's not normally like this. Like we don't, because we have over all the time, and I take such pride in being a good host, and so I'm so glad that you're still hanging around.
Oh no, and you know, it's a cautionary tale too. Those when you eat like edibles like that, that's you really gotta look. Like I just started paying attention now to the packaging because it's like it's over 10. You're going someplace.
Oh,
They're good.
yeah, good or bad. But also, one of the people hadn't never even smoked pot before, so it's like, don't take mind-altering drugs at a stranger's home. It's just
yeah.
But you know, anyway, speaking of mind-altering. Your film, I recently got to see, it was released on Amazon Prime, which was such a treat because every time that it's screened in one way or another, my husband's gotten to see it, but I haven't. So, but I was lucky to visit you, but just prior to the pandemic, one of my last crowded rooms situations was the Winter Film Awards.
That's right. You guys were there. That was really sweet.
It was great, and it was the last time that I felt comfortable, in a crowded room with people. So it was like,
I know. I actually have that picture. Maybe there's a way to add it at some point. But it's you, me, Clay, my girlfriend, and Brian, who's going to the show next week. And we all like, took a big picture together. So it's nice.
It was so nice, and we were. It was eerie because we were there, and we were there for the awards ceremony after party. And we were celebrating the fact that our mutual friend who introduced us, the late, great Nick Tucci, was nominated for an acting award. And, it was so great to get to see that film for many reasons, but just briefly touching on, I met Nick, and seeing him in this film reminded me of that first encounter. He's very observant. He's very quiet, but he knows how to get something out of you. And I think that you really capture that essence of him in the film. And I want to hear about, obviously not just working with him, because we both know how amazing he is, but just in general, like, working on a project that really capitalizes on the meta quality of manipulating people to make art.
Right. Yeah. It developed over like a long period of time, as a lot of these things do. At least for me, we couldn't do Myth in like a really tight, like three week shoot. Like there just wasn't enough resources. So we spent a long periods of time kind of working on this film together and talking about the character, and it molded itself to Nick in these really interesting ways. I don't think he was necessarily written, the character was written exactly how, it ended up on screen. And that's just because Nick, added so much to it, over the period of time. And I was actually just talking to a friend about this the other day, about when you're working with actors, and my whole thing is like when you're like an indie whatever filmmaker producer, your mind is always scattered in like 1,000 different directions, and you're like thinking about the lunches and what shot you're going to get later and how much light you are and do you have batteries in your sound recordings, stuff. And but then the actors come prepared with their characters, and they've been thinking about their characters way more than you have in a sense, and I don't mean that like, obviously I care a lot about each character in the film, but they're really in it. They're really just sitting there going, thinking through each kind of thought. And so with Nick there, it was just a win-win, because you knew how much he was gonna, how much talent he was gonna bring to it, and how much preparation and inspired choices he was able to make.
Yeah, and the whole ensemble was great. Like I've got to meet Justin, and
yeah.
What I thought was so great about the film is, and everybody check it out, and I'm going to avoid spoiling anything, but it's great because you basically distill the essence of the impressions of these actors, both like in their real life sense and like what you wanted in the story. And it really made me meditate on the fact that like the best roles that actors get to play are the ones that capitalize on that they go, this performer is adept at this archetype, let me exploit that, and even more so, like, let me exploit it by just letting them just be in that space. Let me write them some great dialogue, and they will exude the exact energy that I need. Because Justin does perfectly capture that sort of lovable, like, I don't know what the nice, like lovable, like not doofus, but like lovable, like you just want to like give him a noogie, you just want to be like,
well, yeah. Well, it was funny because I was actually thinking originally of making the character like a lot younger.
Yeah.
And I remember at one point when we were kind of doing a casting search, I was speaking with like 15-year-old kids, and actually like I went to that place in Midtown, like Schnippers or whatever, it's like the hot dog place, with this kid and his dad, and I'm describing the movie to this kid, and I'm like, oh, this doesn't fit at all. This is like really awkward. I'm like, and the dad felt it too. Like, he's like, well, I guess, it's a good chance for my son to do blah, blah, blah. So anyway, like Justin coming aboard, it's sort of, the character didn't really change. He almost in a way is playing like a 15-year-old, but he's really, in the movie, he's really like 19, because he's got a couple of years of like, stilted like life experience that he hasn't really experienced a lot of the things that he's exposed to in the film. So he's kind of a little bit more babyish in that way.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because it becomes this without giving it away, it's like this orchestrated coming of age tale. It's like, how do you give the most perfect coming of age experience to a person? And
right.
Like, when I think about it, one of the things I was also thinking about after watching it was this idea of, you can't tell somebody a lesson, but you can try and like show them or hope that they fail and learn it. Like the best things we can do are like a super skill is if I'm able to tell you something I've learned in life, and then you completely understand it and completely like take it to heart and avoid my mistakes. But most people really do need to make mistakes or to go through experiences in order to take things to heart. So it must be a frustrating thing to be a parent, was something I thought about watching the movie. Like, well, I could tell them that this is how they'll feel, but it might work better if I show them.
Right. That's a really interesting take on it. Like that opens up a deeper, broader sort of question. Whoa. But that's great. I mean, I think that anytime that you can try to convey something, some kind of version of that, is really interesting. And in film, you can go in so many different directions. You can have it, you can have things play out a lot of different ways. I mean, certainly film could have ended differently had the main character Alex kind of gone, maybe a different path. But I think the one thing that we were trying to show is that, it is sort of a movie about like personal power, personal agency. And when you're in a situation with someone that you like idolize, you have such little power against. It's kind of just being like swept up in a way by that person, whether it's like, it'd be like, meeting your favorite movie star, favorite, musician, and you're trying to like hang with that person, but at the same time, it's like they can kind of crush you like a little ant because they have all this power, and so I think that's the the character's journey throughout is he's trying to like take back some control of his own narrative in a sense.
Yeah, take control of his narrative, but in the process, he's discovering what his narrative is, like what
Right.
he wants to be. Because I feel like when you're at that age, or really honestly any age, because we're all like continuously learning different things if we're open to it. You have to make a decision about who you are, and when you do, that's when you're taking a stand. So
Yeah.
because yeah, I mean, and that your film is great because it works on so many different levels of different like power dynamics, but it also examines like the role of cinema in teaching empathy. Like, how can we affect people with the art that we make? And then what are the implications of making that art? And can you make exploitative projects still resonate as something transcendent, even if the means of making them were a certain thing? Like we have such a reckoning right now with different filmmakers, whether it be like, sexual harassment or assault issues, or if we have people risking safety of cast and crew on set, but then we hear about it after we've already experienced the art.
Right.
So what does that mean for the audience? Do we feel implicated in enjoying and giving a legacy to this piece?
Yeah.
When the means of it were questionable. And I think it's wonderful the way you explore it on such a simple scale. So.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. It reminded me actually of a real quick Nick Tucci story. Just in terms of his preparation for the role, I remember him watching. You know how you can on YouTube you can find all that behind the scenes footage of The Shining.
Yes.
It's that like amazing. It's like 30 minutes. I think like Kubrick's daughter shot some of it, and you just see these little tiny snippets of like Jack Nicholson like getting ready, and yeah, and obviously what you were saying before. It's like you think about somebody like Kubrick who at least treated Shelley Long pretty badly on that set, but he got this performance out of her, which was amazing. So it's like we are always kind of grappling with that. Like, is that okay? That like, I mean, she seems. I mean, she's stated, that I think she has fonder memories of it, but of course it left scars for her that I'm sure she probably has to carry with her forever. But it's at the same time, it's like it's art. Like it's like just incredible art. So where do you draw the line?
Yeah, I think I'm constantly in conflict about that because, like, to me, and also like, at what point is art ruined by one person participating in it?
Yeah.
For instance, like, I hope I don't get canceled for this, but like, Rosemary's Baby is more than just Polanski,
Right. Yeah.
and it's so hard. It's so hard to deal with that. And also, as an actress, I feel like I don't hear enough actors and actresses speaking on the fact that we willingly are manipulated and are put in vulnerable positions all the time. But it usually isn't until we find ourselves in a place of power that we speak about it. And in my case, I know that I have spoken up on a couple of different sets. And only one time did that really end in me having to leave the production. But, you know, it's a weird line, because some people do require tough love in order to create. Like, have you seen the documentary? Can't remember the name of it, but it's about the Bikram yoga scandal. Yeah. So how he would like get these people in the best shapes of their lives, and would then speak his like, you know, evangelical yoga and like do it for the rest of their lives. But he would like say, "Oh, and look at that flab, look at that," and like yell at them, spit at them, and like all this stuff that's recorded. And they would be so conflicted about it because they were in the best shape of their life. They were motivated by fear. It's weird.
It is weird. And I have a hard time, you know, identifying with it, because I think one of the things, like, I, you know, as a filmmaker, like, I actually struggle with the most is really kind of taking that authoritative role with actors, you know, and you know, there's obviously a million ways to direct and have that kind of dialogue with your actors. I veer on the side of I want, and I think what we should, you know, make sure everyone feels comfortable and kind of a safe place to explore. So it's interesting. It's like Kubrick, I'm sure on many levels was kind in some ways, or, you know, he wasn't, I don't think he was like a monster or anything like that. But yeah, it's like, you know, can you achieve that same end in a nice way, you know, or can you, you know, make sure you push people, push them, you know, make them go the extra mile, but also, you know, keep things respectful and, you know, comfortable, I guess. Yeah.
Consistent, like something, another. I hope I'm not like just being like overly complimentary or anything, but like something I enjoyed about your film was I really pay attention to this on a very deep level. This idea of everyone felt like they were in the same film. Like sometimes egos clash on a set. Actors all have individual great talents, and they have different styles that they want to bring to a character.
Right.
And it becomes this cacophonous mess. And you can tell that the director just was too shy and thought they were all great, but it doesn't feel like a cohesive piece. But in your piece, I definitely feel like there was this very nice, like, touch and go thing going on where it was like, maybe like just move this and then do your thing, you know it. But that you somehow were able to communicate what you wanted the project to be, get that message to your actors, and then have your actors live in that same space. What were your like rehearsals like with them, or what was it like to have like all the three main actors together? Did you try to poke certain people more than others, or did you like just something?
Yeah. In terms of the kind of the on-set dynamic, it was basically two houses. We were upstate for about 14 days. So it was the Airbnb was like base camp. That was where all the actors stayed, and then it was me and the crew at my parents' house. And it was about like 30 minutes of driving in between, because we're upstate. So it's like, you know, the next hotel over is like 2 towns, you know. But those guys, I think that's where the sort of the bonding came from. They just like, it was Nick, Justin, Sadie, and Connor in this like Airbnb for the week, and I think that really helped the rapport. And then they were obviously like, we would go home every night and just like fall asleep, like hit our heads against the my mom's kitchen counter and just like pass out. But they would like be drinking and whatever they were doing up there. They were having a good time, and I let them, when we get to set, we would just open up the script and be like, all right, like what doesn't work, and then they'd already kind of have an answer for me. They'd be like, I don't think they should do this. And then, most of the time we just kind of tried it, and if we found what worked, then we would kind of lock in, get the coverage, because I like to at least, once we've got the first 2 shots, kind of know where we're going. But we usually use the time on set to figure that out, as quickly as we can. And there's, some days we would be like there too long, like, oh, crap, like we got to start filming, guys, that kind of thing. But they were great, and they knew, and they brought so much to it. Like the ideas were being shared throughout the whole group. That's set.
I like that. I mean, every set that I've had the opportunity to share space with my, cast members, like it always works out better just because you're like literally breathing the same air, but you're kind of able to be in that same energy. Whereas projects where I'm literally in a trailer by myself and I'm not allowed to talk to this other person, it's like, how do you have to like learn how to change your style of performing based off of your comfort, like how to, okay, so I guess I'm just going to have to turn all these emotions into a playlist with a lot of Ennio Morricone, and I'm going to put that on that other person once I get on set and I'm allowed to look at them.
Yeah.
But you get this casual chemistry, and it really is beautiful. I mean, and it's a great film to watch, like for that like end of summer feels, that like, like memories of gone by summers. I think you guys got a very perfect timing for the release.
Thank you. Yeah, the whole year's been weird, but I was just curious. So, like, when you're on like a bigger set, do you find that you can approach the director and you guys can have a conversation, or is it just too big at that point? It's like too many wheels spinning.
It depends on the project. I've had bad experiences where literally so many miscommunications happen just because the director just waits till the very last second to interact with an actor, and it's weird because, you say like the actors, we've been working on these characters. Not only that, but like we're physically distilling an energy for you, and we have to hurry up and wait. And things get made worse when you like get put in a position, you're like, my hair's perfectly done. Here, I don't want to crinkle this costume.
Yeah.
So it can become a thing. And you know what? That's just, as an actor, it's just part of the job. You just have to learn to adjust based on the project. But I definitely have an affinity for the smaller indie stuff because you get to like do the summer camp thing. You get to like live with people, talk about art, act like you're Betty's for a summer. I mean, it's just the best,
Yeah.
Like,
there's nothing like it. It's just, even if like, I don't know, maybe the film didn't turn out like the way you wanted it to, it's still always a special, I think, experience.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's just a taste. It's just like it's like an adjustment. Like my first time I ever did a TV appearance, it was like getting on a short roller coaster. Because you're like ready, you're like in the uniform, like you've been preparing for like weeks, like you've been costumed, everything's fitted. People are talking in your ear. Literally, people are grabbing you, placing you, adjusting you, all this stuff. People are trying to talk to you. Other people are staring you down, looking like, don't talk on set, and all this stuff. And then you go on and do like your 2 lines. And then you come back and you're like, that's it? And then they're like rolling, moving on. And you're like, okay. All right. And then you wait for 20 minutes just in case they need to redo it because of some catastrophic thing that you didn't see. And then they're so on top of it that you're like, oh, and that really was it. I'm done. Wow. That was it. That was me acting.
Wow. That's I've never heard it described like that before, but I can totally like put myself in that.
Yeah.
Just the whole experience. It's, wow, that's crazy. I'm sure that's probably how. I mean, like, did they do like? I mean, you just like one take, two takes, or they? I guess it depends, right?
3 takes for coverage, and that
Yeah.
was it. But I mean, I'm just talking like it's so intimidating. Like I pray I get to do more of this kind of level and like learn how to make it more of like a less of a freakish like experience, but just the fact
Yeah.
that all right, yeah, we got this, we got the camera wrapper, like the cameras, everything is on like the most expensive dollies you've never seen in your life. Like things are moving, they wrapped around, and then meanwhile, like the main cast like just got the script, like minutes, and they just were like, yeah, got it, and then they like just do it, and that's what ends. Just like I mean, I have immense respect for like soap opera actors, which is why people like, I want to give a shout out to Barbara Crampton because like she understands so many levels of this kind of feeling, you know, like just like having to memorize stuff, like tons of stuff, and then how to do really visceral stuff, and then how to work in an indie set. Like those are different skills. That's not one skill. That's some people can only do the one. I might be one of those people. I might only fit well and bloom on screen if it's like this indie little thing. But
no, you got it all. You got the total range.
But you know, it's been wonderful talking to you, and I wanted to know something I ask all my guests is, you know, whether it's thinking on everything we just talked about or just like what's been on your mind, what kind of message do you want to send out to the universe today?
I would just say like, you know, we're all doing the best we can, you know. I've talked to a lot of friends and myself included where, you know, oh, it's got the election coming up and COVID and everyone's a little, I'd say this summer, you know, it's been a little rough. But just like kind of hang in there, you know, keep writing, or doing your own thing, whatever that thing is. I am going to try and take my own advice and continue writing too, because I want to make more things. But yeah, just kind of like, just keep being you. And, you know, you gotta, I don't know, you gotta kind of like just, man, I feel like anything I'm gonna say is gonna sound so cliche. I know it's probably not what you like a graduation speech. I don't know. But yeah, just like positive vibes into the universe. Watch a good movie, you know, watch Myth if you haven't seen it already.
Watch Myth, and shameless plug, since you said good vibes.
Yes.
If you're watching this before August 26th, if you visit my Instagram account, I have a Good Vibes giveaway right now where I have partnered up with an amazing small business owned by Renisha, who owns 1221 Candle Studio, and we're giving out $50 worth of candles to like help everybody chill out. And yeah, so there's rules in my Instagram. It's in my links below. But yeah, it'll be announced the winner on August 26th. So if you're watching this after, dang it. But thanks for watching anyway. But there'll be more of that kind of stuff. And thank you again for coming on the show, Brian. You are a treat, as always.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone, for joining me for another episode of Chatting with Asta. And thanks to Brian for joining me on this episode. If you are enjoying this show, I would very much appreciate if you like, comment, subscribe, share. And the message this week is pretty chill. It's, you know, just hang in there and keep doing what you're doing. And yeah, thanks, guys.